Go twice as high. Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow. A reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow.
The Jarretts are a typical American family. Calvin is a determined, successful provider, and Beth an organized and efficient wife and mother. They had 2 sons, Conrad and Buck, but now they only have one due to a severe accident. In this memorable, moving novel, Judith Guest, the author, was able to take me, the reader, into their lives to share their misunderstandings, pain, and the ultimate healing process they had to go through as a family. Ordinary People is set in Lake Forest, Illinois during the 1970s. The action focuses on the Jarrett family, Calvin, Beth, and their son Conrad. Before the action of the book begins, there was another Jarrett son. His name was Buck. He was killed in a boating accident over a year before the novel began. After the death of Buck, Conrad became deeply troubled and depressed, and he blamed himself for his brother's death. He tried to commit suicide by slashing his wrist, but he failed at his attempt at suicide when Calvin, his father, found him before he died in the bathtub. After the attempt of suicide, Conrad was hospitalized, where he went through therapy, and he also befriended a girl named Karen, who was also his age and who had tried to kill herself. The action of the book begins a month after Conrad is released from the hospital. While he is physically cured, he is by no means emotionally cured, or even anywhere being happy from what has happened to him in his life. And at the request of his father, he begins to see a psychiatrist, whose name is Dr. Berger, to help him gain control over others so that he can make his father stop worrying about him. Conrad goes back to school, but he becomes even more isolated than he was before. He spends most of his time in the library, and he decides to quit the swimming team also, although he didn't tell his parents about the decision until a month later. He spends his time in the library, though, and he even goes out for a Coke with his old friend Karen at one point that he met in therapy. And he sees that she's doing much better than she was before. That is a girl that was new to Lake Forest, and he becomes interested in her. They go out a couple times before they start to date seriously towards the end of the school year. Meanwhile, Conrad continues to see Berger. Although it is unclear whether he's making much progress, the novel focuses on his family life, and we see that Conrad is becoming increasingly alienated from his mother, who is not interested in pampering him or dwelling on the past. His relationship with his father is somewhat strained as well. During the winter, though, Conrad goes to a swim meet on a whim, and afterward he gets into a fist fight with an old friend, who has begun to treat him cruelly lately. In some ways, it is unclear whether Conrad is really getting better. His father grows increasingly concerned about him, too. That spring, he goes to stay with his grandparents while his parents go on vacation to Houston. There, he spends lots of time with Jeannie. One night, however, he reads in the newspaper that his friend Karen has committed suicide. He's suddenly thrown into shock, and he spends the whole night in a dreamlike trance, thinking about his time with Karen. He begins to think about his own suicide attempt and the death of his brother. He goes out walking at 2 a.m. to think some more, and he's stopped by a police officer and told to return home. He falls back into a dream at home and wakes up at dawn. He immediately calls Berger and requests to meet with him in his office. There, Conrad breaks down and admits that he blames himself for the death of his brother Buck, which happened at a boating accident. Berger tells him to stop blaming himself and to stop trying to fill Buck's shoes and to make his parents happy as if he were Buck. Buck tells him that he needs to allow himself to feel more even when he feels bad, and he needs to be himself for a change. After this breakdown and release of emotion, Conrad begins to heal substantially, enjoying a great relationship with the new girl, Jeannie. First couple chapters of this book, I was actually kind of confused and didn't really understand, the author's writing style and how she went about writing the book. The stream of consciousness that she put into the book was rather intrusive to me because it was the first time I've ever read this book. And Conrad and Kevin's struggles, though, were revealed at painstakingly slow rates, so it kind of made it hard to understand the book. But that made me have to read more and more and get more and more into the book. And then as I read more of the book, the true conflict of the book came out, and it made me get into the characters' heads a lot more and make me understand truly what they were going through. And by the end of the book, I not only felt like I was closer to the characters, I actually felt like I understood exactly what they were going through and how other people might be, and what other people would be going through if they were in this kind of situation that the characters had to go through. So I would definitely recommend this book to people, especially for the use of AP writing, because it is able to go along with many essay topics, and especially if you just want a good read, just because it's very interesting and it's able to take you along and put you in a real life experience.